episode 31 of Light on Leeds podcast, I was visited by two members of Leeds Roller Derby, Kirsty, aka Hizzle, A-team captain, and Camille, aka Camboozled, an academy star. They told me all about Leeds Roller Derby, how they got their nicknames, and how you can get involved. Do have a listen. So on this episode of Light on Leeds podcast, we have two members of Leeds Roller Derby. We have Cam and Kirsty. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for coming. So I'm saying Cam and Kirsty, although I was told that you both have alternative names. Can you explain what they are and why that is?
Yeah, so my alternative name when I'm playing roller derby is Hizzle, but most people shorten that to Hiz. It's kind of a common thing in roller derby. You kind of create a bit of an alter ego for yourself, which is kind of part of the joy of the sport as well. And that name kind of is sometimes something to do with a nickname you've had all your life, or it can just be something that one of your teammates comes up with, and it's usually kind of a bit of a rite of passage when you first join the club that you kind of come up with your name.
Yeah, so when I first joined, and I joined around the time with a lot of different people just over a year ago, we were all so excited to come up with our derby names.
Yeah.
And even now, as new people join, we're all on the WhatsApp group because we have separate little WhatsApp groups for all the different levels we're at. But on ours, we all get really excited and we're like, that's right, what's your full name? What do you do? Like, let's see if we can figure out a way to get there. So my derby name's Camboozled, and it actually came to me in a dream. So,
how profound!
I know. So there I was, just falling asleep, thinking about derby names, and it just hit me, and I was just like, no, that's it. So I actually came up with my own, and I am fine with that.
Yeah.
But most people just call me Cam because Camboozled is a mouthful.
Yeah. I sort of came up with my own, but mine was genuinely something that my friends called me out. You know, just generally, I was called Hiz by my friends, but I was very nearly called Auntie Custard, which I'm kind of glad that I didn't end up with. But that's because my godkids couldn't say Kirsty properly, so they called me Auntie Custard.
Oh,
and it's actually stuck, so I get called that elsewhere, but not in roller derby, thank goodness.
Yeah. My alternate one was Slamiel, and I was like, no, I'm not going with that.
Slamiel.
Yeah, Camille.
Auntie Custard doesn't quite sound that fierce, really, does it?
So for anybody who doesn't know, can you explain to me a little bit, and also for me, how roller derby works and what is it all about?
Do you want to start, or should I start with the very basics of
the
academy? Okay, so when you first join, I think most roller derby teams, but I can only talk from Leeds' perspective. You join into what's called the academy, and basically it's just a welcome area for anybody and everybody, as long as you're over 18, who may never have skated before or have a little bit of experience, and any age, and you can just come along and you can learn the basics of skating. And the basic skills to then move on, and once you pass your minimal skills, you move on to playing or training to play roller derby properly.
Yeah, I say if you kind of rewind it back, roller derby itself is a full contact sport, played on quad roller skates. We are a female club. We have expansive gender representation in our club, but it's a female driven sport,
or female identifying.
Yeah, exactly. And it's played on an flat oval track, and you're trying to score points by getting past the opponent players, to make it very simple, because I think trying to explain it verbally without hand movements visible to people that are listening is going to be really difficult. But back to Cam then, in terms of your journey once you're part of the club and part of that as a sport.
Yeah, so you start in the academy, learning the basics, and then once you've passed your minimal skills, you move on to learning more strategy and play, from which you can move on to the A and B team, and that's where Kirsty's more well versed in than I am.
So the A and B team is sort of higher expertise, or you've been doing it longer?
So within the academy area is when you're starting out, you're learning to skate, you're learning the sport, because there's a lot of rules. And it's actually really important that you understand the rule set, because it can be quite dangerous because of being on skates. Once you're in competitive, that's when you're in a position to be able to go and play other teams, because you know the rules, you pass your minimum skills as Cam outlined. our competitive, anybody that's joining our club, our goals as a club is to be competitive.
Yeah.
So we want to go out and play other teams and win.
Yeah.
So to give everybody an opportunity, and we're fortunate that our club, I think at the moment we have nearly 70 members in the club.
Wow.
And that's across our academy, our competitive, and our officials and volunteers. So we have people that that officiate, otherwise we couldn't play our sport. But within the competitive part of the club, that's then split into 2 different teams because we've got enough people to do that.
Yeah.
So when you go into competitive, you get the opportunity to play on our challenge team initially, and then you'll get chartered, they call it, onto one of our teams, our B or A team. Those teams both travel, so we'll go all over Europe playing other teams. But there's kind of a bit of a progression pathway we talk about. So you'll go into B team, and then some people will just want to skate in the B team, whereas some people want to develop their skills even further and compete at a higher level again and join our A team. And our A team is basically made up of our top skaters within the club, and we represent the club within the WFTDA league rankings. So the WFTDA is kind of like the overall governing body for roller derby, the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, and they have a world ranking system, which our A team are in. We're currently ranked 203rd in the world.
Wow.
And that's out of nearly 450 ranked teams globally.
Wow.
So we're in the top half of the world, which is kind of cool.
It is
So
really
Leeds
cool.
are on the top of the world, guys. And then our B team, it doesn't mean that our B team doesn't get involved in kind of ranked games. We also are involved in what's called the British Championships. So again, there's a local governing body for roller derby, and they've created a league system to encourage competitive play across the UK, and our B team are part of that. So they're skating in Tier 3 this year. They've actually got their first game next weekend.
Excellent.
Which is our first home game of the year. So we've got loads of organising to do, which is super exciting. I think that's the other thing to be really aware of with roller derby that's quite different from a lot of other sports, is that we are completely like grassroots, volunteer led. We don't have any funding from like the council or any governing body kind of within the UK. We're like, it's a completely kind of, everybody within the club is kind of equal. We all have some kind of contribution to make the club work and run and tick over, all because we've got this shared passion for being part of this sport and supporting one another.
The other thing I'd add to that as well is that it doesn't matter if you have a day on skates and you decide skates aren't for you, there's still a role for you in Leeds.
That's
roller
great.
derby. There's a space for everybody and anybody who just wants to be part of a really great team of people.
We've got one member, Hannah, who is one of our officials, and she has literally travelled all around the world with roller derby, but she doesn't skate. She's an official, and she's done over 300 sanctioned games.
Wow.
So it was actually like, and it's really lovely because within the roller derby community, that kind of thing's celebrated as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just about being a skater and going out and being able to like, skate as fast as you can or be able to hit people over. Actually, we celebrate everyone at every level for every kind of contribution that they make to the sport, because without each other it just wouldn't happen.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's really good. And so do you have quite a diverse range of ages of people that get involved?
Yes. So, I mean, Cam already said, like, you need to be 18 to start.
Yeah.
But we have, I think, we have people up to in their 50s in the club.
I mean, it's really hard to tell because,
we're also youthful.
Everyone's very youthful. And because we're all there for a shared passion, we're not actually bothered about how old anybody is.
No.
And actually, we were talking about this the other day in the group chat. I think somebody was saying that the knees ached and it's about getting old. And then everyone was, and then suddenly became aware, how old are you? And then someone was like, oh, well, it's only me and so who are the oldest ones. And then someone else packed up like, actually, I'm older than you. And it all just started coming out. And I sat there quite quietly because I'm in my 20s.
That's the really cool thing about roller derby, though. I mean, with a lot of other sports, because they're things that you've done at school, unless you kind of got really involved when you were like in your like early teens and showed like that you had some prowess in it, you can't kind of get in. There's not as many access points when you get older to go back into sports. with roller derby, you find that people start, like, they enter it when they're in their 30s and their 40s, or even when they're 18. There's kind of no barrier. And it's that really strange thing that because you put wheels on people's feet, it sort of flattens the playing field.
Yeah.
It totally does. And also that's the same in terms of like body shapes, like physical ability. Like, it's really, really inclusive as a sport. And I think that's what brings people into it of all ages, all backgrounds. Like,
absolutely.
We've got like from students to like, I'm head of marketing for a beauty brand.
I'm a scientist.
Yeah, like none of that stuff matters. Like, we all just love roller derby.
It's like joining a big supportive gang, really.
Do you know what I always say to people? Roller derby, it's not a sport, it's a lifestyle choice.
That's lovely.
Well, yeah, like at work this week, they were like, "Oh, so what are you doing this weekend, Cam?" And I was just like, "Oh, well, I'm recording a podcast." They're like, "Is that roller derby related?" I was like, "Everything I do is now roller derby related." It's like there's very few things I do where it's separate, and you know what? I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
So how long have you been involved?
So I've been involved since last January. I just moved to Leeds actually, and when I was growing up, I actually did gymnastics from about the age of 5, and then when I turned 16 and started working, so dropped out a bit, but I just couldn't get away from it. So I went to uni, carried on doing it, left uni, started my first job, carried on doing it until I got to about 23, and you start to realise that gymnastics, I love the sport so much. And I coached as well, but your body can't hack it for very long. once you pass your teen years, unless you're like Olympic level, your body's not going to start collapsing on you. So when I moved here, I looked at finding another gymnastics club, and then I had also got into, I'd been made aware of roller derby a few years before, and one of my colleagues actually said, who I'd worked with previously, was like, "Oh, remember you were into that skating thing? Why don't you see if something's happening?" And so I did, and it happened to be a recruitment night on the day I looked. So
it was meant to be.
It was absolutely meant to be, and I've not looked back since.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, and it's definitely filled the void that I was missing because I'd left gymnastics behind. So.
Yeah, and you get a social circle as well. It seems like
absolutely, yeah.
Definitely. That's definitely a really big motivator for a lot of people. You get a lot of people if they've moved to the city and don't really know a lot of people, it kind of pulls people in because it's a great way of meeting a load of kind of like-minded people.
And everyone's so lovely.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one I don't like.
Yeah. That's good to know. Could have been awkward.
Could have been very awkward.
Found out on this one.
I'm not just saying off the podcast, there is no one I don't like.
But I've been skating for nearly 8 years, but Leeds Roller Derby has only existed for 4 years. We're into our 4th year now. And Leeds Roller Derby, actually, our history is we're made up of 2 Leeds clubs that merged.
Oh, okay.
Just like 4 years. We're coming into our 4th year now, so just over 4 years ago. So the Roller Derby's actually been in the city of Leeds for over 10 years, but it was under the guise of different clubs. So there was Leeds Roller Dolls, which was the original club, and then there was Hot Wheel Roller Derby. And sort of 4 years ago, we got together and were like, hang on a second, we're sharing all these resources, we're recruiting people and competing with one another, but we're both Leeds.
Yeah.
Why don't we make one big club?
Yeah, perfect.
And that's what we did 4 years ago, and that's how Leeds Roller Derby was born.
And so you said you've been skating for 8 years. Had you been doing that sort of professionally, or
No, it was part of Hot Wheel. So I started skating as a result of roller derby,
right, and then
it was with one of the former clubs that ended up coming together to make the current Leeds Roller Derby.
Oh, that's brilliant! And where do you play?
So we train in Rothwell.
Right.
So we're very fortunate to have a permanent training venue where they let us store loads of stuff and all things like that. I mean, obviously we pay for it. But then when we play, our home venue is the Edge at the university. So if anybody's ever interested in watching us, keep your eye out on what's going on at the Edge. I mean, we're all over social media, so we are Leeds RD, I think is our handle across the across Facebook and Instagram, and we're always on there telling you what's going on. So pay attention and come along.
Yeah, and the other great thing about having a permanent training venue is it means that there's quite a lot of kit that when people are coming for the first time or for the first few months, they don't have their own things, that there's everything you could ever need to borrow to start training and give it a go. Yeah, so there's literally no pressure if you just wanted to come along and give it a go one day. There's skates and all the protective gear you could ever dream of. and then there's so many, because obviously a lot of people have been skating for a long time, like Kirsty's been skating, 8 years, so it's just a wealth of knowledge as well. So when you are looking to buy your first skates, people can really advise you well.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that can be quite off-putting, I suppose, if you take up a new interest and if there's expensive equipment involved and you don't really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic that people can sort of try before they buy.
Absolutely,
and get all the advice that they need.
Yeah, we're quite good at if you want to say you wanted to try some new wheels or see kind of, because there's different hardnesses, we won't go too far into it, but there's different kinds of wheels. But obviously when you're brand new, you don't know what suits you or what you will enjoy. And what's great about our club is everyone's just so willing to help.
Yeah.
So there's just advice being thrown around, people lending things to other people, so everyone can just
I think as well for us, like, accessibility is really important.
Yeah.
And it's being aware that not everybody can afford to invest in the full kit straight away, and maybe going to have to save up once they understand, know that they really enjoy it. So making sure that we've got all that hire kit there, and we'll often, like, as a club, we fundraise.
Yeah.
So we'll do things, so like our home events are really important because they're an opportunity for us to try and bring some revenue into the club. And things like that are then ploughed back into the club, so it helps us keep our hire kit kind of in tip-top condition. It helps fund travel, so because as I talked about before that our A and B teams are travelling around Europe, it's all self-funded. So if there's what we don't want to do is make it exclusive, so we use things like that to make sure that the sport stays as inclusive as possible, which is really important.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have a huge fan base then? Have you got a lot of people who come and watch your games? And
I just remember that is it the little whippet bear that seems to follow? I'm sure it was at a game not long ago.
I have not heard of this.
It's either little whippet or it's a little Jenga, but I think it's a little whippet, and it's a one of the fans has made a bear with little roller skates on. I'm sure, I can't believe you've
It's
never
probably
seen this.
Whippet.
I think it is Whippet, yeah. Whippet's one of our A-team skaters. But yeah, I can't believe you haven't seen it. But yeah, so I think from what I've gathered, there seems to be quite a good fan base going on.
Yeah, and people got their favourite players.
Yeah,
that's lovely.
It's really because there are clubs all over the UK. You tend to find like the community spreads beyond just our city, so you'll know that a team's playing in the next city along and we'll maybe all like jump in a car together and go and watch. So you'll find that people from other clubs around the UK will come and watch. Friends and family obviously want to come and get involved. It's really common, again, because of the names, where people will buy like t-shirts for like their friends and family, and they'll be there with like their number on, or a different, or a different name, like Mama Hizzle or something. Like my mum doesn't have that, but I'm just giving it some so it's kind of good fun. Yeah. Mum, please buy a t-shirt.
Oh, that's great. So can you just explain a little bit about what is the aim of the game? What is the substance of it?
Well, it's a points building game in essence. So whichever team ends with the most points wins the game. The way it works is correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still learning. But at any one time on the track, there are 4 blockers and 1 jammer from each team, all on the track, all together at the same time.
Right.
And the aim of the game is for the jammer to pass the other team's blockers, which is where the full contact bit comes in, because the blockers are obviously trying to block the jammer from getting by, and you can do that with all the legal zones of your body, which I'm not going to get into that because I'm still learning my legal zones.
And that's where the contact comes in.
And that's where the contact comes in. So the game works in like jams, and the jam can be 2 minutes long. And basically a jammer can become a lead jammer through various methods, but they can either call the jam off early, or the jam can go for the full 2 minutes. And so during that time, as long as you've done your initial pass, so got past the blockers 1 time, you can start building points, and every blocker you pass you get a point. So I've seen some amazing jams where it's been like 25-point jams, and it just keeps going and going and going.
The last jam of our last game was a 24 to
nice.
Jam. It was beautiful. The A-team played 2 games last weekend and we won both.
Oh.
It was so exciting. So it's 2-minute jams, but it's over 2 halves of half an hour, so it's an hour's game.
Right.
But it's quite American in the sense that it's broken up into little bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
But it makes it like a really good spectator sport once you've got a handle of what the hell's going on.
Even when I first started going to games and I didn't have a clue what was going on, I still found it really exciting because everyone was just bashing into each other and like just seeing people flying around and everyone just cheering as the jam gets out. It's a really great atmosphere.
Yeah.
So even if you're not 100% sure what's going on, it's still very interesting. And the more you go, the more you learn. And there's always people sat there who know what is going on and can talk you through it. And that's what helped me when I first started going, was like somebody sat next to me saying, okay, so this has just happened. And I'd be like, I missed all of that.
So anybody who wanted to get involved in any way, they can check out your Facebook. And did you say that you have sort of recruitment drives every now and then?
Yeah, we tend to have roughly quarterly recruitment drives.
Yeah.
I think we're in the process of planning when the next one's going to be. I think it might be around April time.
That makes sense. Because the last one's in January.
But we always will advertise them. But it doesn't mean that if in between those times you are interested, you can still get in touch with us, either via Facebook, like DM us on Facebook or Instagram, or also drop us an email at hello@leedsrollerderby.com.
Yeah.
And somebody from our recruitment committee will respond and let you know all of the details, and hopefully we can get you along and get some of that hire kit on you and send you on your merry roll away.
It sounds fantastic. I mean, I don't know if I'd be brave enough to join, but I'll definitely come along and watch a game. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Well, you're always more than welcome.
Yeah,
and if
definitely.
you do want to try it, you're always welcome as well.
Well, I'll just take it one step at a time before I start rolling. I always ask my guests 3 questions. You don't have to have the same answers, obviously. The first one is, what do you think is great about the city of Leeds?
Well, I already know. So
I know.
I'm correct, and that is it. So I'm really into live music, and any of my friends will tell you that I'm a little bit obsessed, and I can't help myself when it comes to buying gig tickets. I've actually already got 2 more. But she's got it written down.
That's so weird. I'd written an amazing music scene.
Yeah.
just as proof.
So I've already got 2 gigs this month that I'm stopping myself from going to because I need to not spend all this money constantly. But I've already got 2 lined up as well. And it's just, there's always so much live music. There's unknown bands, there's well-known bands, there's album launches all the time at Bruder now.
Well, there's everything from you can go to stadium gigs to tiny little unknown stuff, which is a super cool thing.
It is so good, yeah. So me being an absolute sucker for live music, I've never had any money because I'm always a guest. So
I think that's just generally Leeds, for culture. You've got opera, you've got ballet, you've got theatre, you've got this crazy music scene. Cool place to be.
Yeah, good answers. And what would you say is something that is not so great about the city?
Do you know what? The M62.
There's always something happening on it every single day. What does this happen with
They
all
just
motorways?
need to put some little parking meters on it and just give up and say it's a car park. The reason I say that though is I'm not, you probably tell from both of our accents that we're not Leeds born and bred. I'm originally from the Wirral over near Liverpool, so my family live over there, so that's my direct route to home. And so
I'm really lucky, my family's in Nottingham, so I'm on the M1. So it's not really a Leeds issue, but once you hit around Sheffield and Meadow Hall, it can get a little bit hairy, but it doesn't sound half as bad.
But that's a Sheffield issue, nothing to do with Leeds. Blame them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get notifications quite often about news that's happening in Leeds, and it's just literally every day the M62.
Yeah. It's
absolutely crazy.
It's people get on it and they just forget how to drive. It's which way do I go?
Mine's probably a bit of a really serious one, but one thing I've really picked up, it's every major city at the moment, but the homelessness is awful, and my heart just goes out to people who find themselves in that situation, and I just wish there was more that the council was doing, and I'm sure there's plenty of really great charities out there, but they need support as well from the local governments to help funding.
It seems to have got more and more that I mean, it's fantastic that the people out there doing great things.
Yeah. You see the volunteers out, like, giving out blankets and food,
but it just seems to be more that the responsibility has gone to volunteers and nobody
charities.
else is sort of taking a wider approach. But yeah, that is a really sad one, and it is all over. I'm hoping to have somebody from Simon on the Streets come on the podcast in a couple of weeks.
I was going to mention them,
yeah, because they're doing fantastic, great things.
Yeah, and it'd be good to know more about them as well and how we can help and get involved.
Exactly, yeah. And what would you say, even to somebody who was a long-term resident of Leeds, could you tell us about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem that they might never have heard of? Are you trying?
I'm having a check in. I want to know if it's the same again. Okay, what's yours? Go on, you go first.
You show me yours. I'm fine to go first. Mine, like, overall, it isn't a hidden gem because everyone knows about it, but I think people overlook it, is Kirkgate Market.
Yeah. It's my favourite place.
I just think it's one of those places that everybody that's a long-term Leeds resident knows it's there, but I don't think understand what a regeneration it's been through and how much amazing stuff is in there. Like, every time you wander through, there's like a new little food place, a new little like stall or something that's opened, and I just urge anybody that's in Leeds that's aware of it but just walks by to just take a little detour and have a wander through, because it is wonderul.
Yeah, it is. I absolutely adore it. I think it's supposed to be the largest covered market in Europe.
Yes,
apparently.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I always feel like if I don't go to Kirkgate Market when I go into Leeds, like, have I even been to Leeds?
Yeah.
You've
Isn't
got
it
to
where
go.
Marks and Spencer's was born as
That's
well?
right, yeah. That's why they've got a little stall in
Yeah.
there, yeah, it's just a fantastic place, and I feel like there's like the whole of Leeds life is in that market.
Yeah, I agree.
When you walk through it, it's just everybody you can think of from every walk of life. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And what about yours?
Well, I've not been here very long, so it might not be a hidden gem, and everyone might know about it. But I personally love Revs de Cuba. So on Kirksall Road. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. The food's amazing. You get cocktails. It's all reasonably priced. Actually, it's like my dad's favourite place to go now when he visits. So we go to Revs de Cuba pretty much every time they come up. And you know what? I hope it never ends because I love it.
That's a really good one. I'm sure there's lots of people who'll be putting that on their list. Well, I always include at the end of every episode as well a track from a Leeds-based band or artist. So you can go back through the back copies and find all the bands.
All out, yeah.
A really eclectic mix as well, which is what I really love. And I always ask guests as well if you know of anybody and you wanted to bring in a track. And Jill actually mentioned
Plot 32.
Plot 32.
Oh, yeah. Our very own Blockfast.
Yeah.
That's her band. So
we were actually playing today at the Scar Punk Festival at the Broodnet.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I had a listen to the track. It's great. It's like really high energy. Yeah. So that's the track we've got, and it's really nice to have had you both here, and for Jill to get involved with the organising of everything, and then for one of your teammates' band to be on. I think it's just perfect.
There's some beautiful symmetry there.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much both for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I thoroughly enjoyed talking to Kirsty and Camille, and I'll definitely be going along to one of their games in the future. The track this week is by another talented member of their team who are in the band Plot 32. The track is Issues, and it's a brilliant track. I hope you enjoy it.